Hey guys, so today we're going to do a video about trimming split ends and how to trim your own split ends. Now this block is quite new, she's got quite raggy ends though, it's all a bit over the place, so I figure I need to cut it straight, so I thought why not make a video about it. Now there is other videos out there, there's a lot of guides out there, a lot of them don't go into too much information and a lot of them don't tell you things which are actually incredibly important. So I'm going to try and keep this quick and I'm not going to talk too much, but at the same time I do want to explain why we do the things we do as we do this haircut or this trim, just because I think it helps. If you're following a guide, anyone can follow a guide, that's great, this is easy, you can follow it very easily. But if you know why you're doing the things you're doing instead of just following, then that just helps with your confidence a bit. I mean, if you're cutting someone else's hair, probably not going to be that confident unless you've done it a few times before. So, you know, I'm going to explain just generally as we go why we're doing what we're doing, and hopefully it will give you a bit of a grounding and a bit more knowledge about what you're actually doing, and that will hopefully just help with your confidence. All you need is a pair of scissors. If you've got cutting scissors, that's great, like hair cutting scissors. You don't have to buy expensive ones, you can buy quite cheap ones. I've got another video that actually goes through scissors, but any scissors, all you need, a pair of scissors. You could do it with kitchen scissors, I wouldn't recommend it, but you could do it, and a comb. And the comb, useful to have quite a thick gap between the teeth. Doesn't have to be, but it is very, very useful, and I'll explain why in a minute. So they're just the two tools you need really. Oh, and some clips, just some hair clips. Again, they don't really have to be hairdressing clips, you could use any clips just to clip the hair out of the way. And that's all the tools you need, so we'll get started on that now. Okay, so we've got our wet hair and we've done our first section. Now our first section is just a straight line on the nape of the neck. Just take a straight line. Now it is important to get that line straight, because if this line's not straight, there's no real point in trying to cut this line straight here. So it is important to cut that line to section quite neatly. Now the first section is about an inch in depth, and all our sections are going to be about an inch in depth as we work up the head. So basically we're ready to make our first cut. Now the bit I said earlier about using the wide teeth of the comb, if you've got a comb with wide teeth, it's very helpful. Now that's because you don't want to be cutting this hair with any tension. So what I mean by that is tension by, when we pull the hair, if we pull the hair down and then we cut a straight line, it will be very straight because we're pulling it tight. But that's not how hair sits. Hair sits without any tension at all. And obviously this being straight at the back and quite long, it doesn't require any tension because it's just sitting limp. So if you use the smaller section teeth, then that gives it more tension than using the wide teeth section, which is much looser and doesn't really give us any tension. And then when we grip the hair also, we don't want to put any tension on the hair. All we want to do is just hold it straight. So we're not pulling the hair down. It's not sort of over direct pulling the hair in any way. We're not pulling the hair down. We're just holding it in our fingers gently, just to maintain it straight, make sure this is straight, and then we cut him. We're not pulling at all. So try and keep as little tension as possible on the hair. And to follow on with that, you want to cut the hair where it falls. So a good idea is to get people to stand up, because they need to be sitting up straight or standing up straight. So if you're cutting this on someone, it's not a bad idea to get them to stand up if the chair's in the way, or you know, if they tend to hunch over or lean to one side. If you get them to stand up, straight, then the hair will always be falling naturally where it falls, and that's where we want to cut it, because we want to cut it where it naturally falls. So yeah, essentially, this is where we make our first cut. So what we do is, with the hair wet and the wide section of our comb, we comb down through the hair and we find an area somewhere in the centre, for example. We take our length where we want to cut. So I'm going to cut about here, and then all we do is we just cut a straight line and cut that hair off there. And then that's our first cut. Now we're going to use this line here as a guide for the rest of the hair. So now we can come and take this side. Remember, we're not giving it any tension, we're not pulling it anywhere, we're just cutting it where it comes down. and we're cutting straight line. Now I haven't got the best position on this camera, so I'm trying my best to hope that it comes out straight. But to avoid my head getting in the way of the camera, I'm afraid I'm kind of leaning around all over the place. And it's important to keep your back straight and your body position straight to maintain a straight cut. So this might not be perfectly straight, but I'll do my best. A bit on that about body position: try to keep your back straight and your shoulders square. And if you need to bend down, just kind of like lower on your knees, like bend your knees, and try and keep that back straight, and that will maintain a good kind of composure whilst you're cutting the hair. And because body position does lay heavily. If you're tilted to one side, you tend to cut heavier on that side that you're tilting to, so it's good to keep your back straight. Anyway, we've cut our first section, and then we're going to use this cut here that we've just made as a guide for the rest of the hair now. So what we'll do is we take our second section, and we take that again about 1 centimetre, about 1 inch deep. So we take the hair down from the clips, and then we take about 1 inch section. And again, we try and keep this nice and straight. Take it first and then straighten it up afterwards if you have to. We'll try and keep it neat, nice and neat. There we have our second section down, and then we pin up the rest so it doesn't get in the way. And then that's how we work throughout the whole head. We just take sections like that. Now, with our second section, we do exactly the same as the previous section. But what we're doing is we're using the cut we did before as a guideline for this cut. Now, I'll show you what we mean by guide in a minute, and I'll show you how to find it if you're struggling. So again, comb down in the middle, and take the hair with as little tension as possible. Now we're cutting to our guide, so I can see already my guide. The way to find it if you can't find it is hold it there and just pop the comb up on the new hair, and you can usually see the section there, see this shorter section there, that's my guide. So my guide's across there. You can see it anyway, you usually can see it, especially on this sort of haircut, it's across there. So we're using the hair we cut previously as a guideline for this new cut, for this new section. So again, we just take it down with the thick section, thick wide teeth of the comb. We find our guide, and again we keep our back straight, and then we just cut to that guide that we made before. Then we do it again on this side. And on the other side. And then that's basically the haircut. So I'll speed up the video now because I think pretty much explained everything, and we'll just work through. One thing, possibly the next section actually, I'll keep it because we're going to start working above the ears. And when we work above the ears, it is a little different. So there's our first two sections done. So now we're going to work on the third section. I'll tell you what, we'll just go straight for it and I'll explain about the ears. Now we're going to go above the ears. We're going to take a section about 1 inch. This might be a bit more than 1 inch. You want to take it about 1 inch. If you're confident you've done it a few times or whatever, you can take more. But if you want to get really kind of neat with it and make sure that you're perfectly straight, the smaller the section, the more likely it's going to be straight. So you don't really want to be taking sections more than 1 inch, because that way you'll keep it nice and neat all the way up through and keep it nice and straight. Now, once we sectioned it, I'll explain about the ears. And then that's pretty much it, and I'll speed it up after that so that you can just see what we're doing to the end. Right, let's pin that up. And then we got our third section, and now it's above the ears, so this gets a little bit different. Not different, same thing really, but it does warrant a bit of explanation. Now, because we're going past the ears, we're pulling, before we're cutting here, the hair falls straight here anyway. Now we're pulling this hair from the front to the back. Now, this hair's got further to travel, and we are actually putting a certain amount of tension on that. This is called over direction. Because what we're doing is we're pulling it round to the back. So essentially, because this hair's got further to travel, the front is going to be longer. Now, it's called a one length cut, and it's one length from the back. But in reality, it actually goes slightly longer towards the front. That's so if you wear it over your shoulders, with the front over your shoulders and the back will be straight. The front doesn't really matter. If you push it all over your back, then the back, it will create a perfectly straight line. So this is slightly longer, but it's still the same length as here because it's travelled backwards. So we need to bear that in mind when we cut these sides, and I'll show you now about that and explain a little bit more, because I think sometimes I can explain, but it's better just to see it. So we'll continue cutting. So again, we're just taking that section, we're finding our guideline, which is mine's here, as you can see there underneath there. So we'll find that guideline, we make that cut through the middle. And then as we work to the sides, what we're doing is we're pulling it straight down still. And carrying on that line, so we're carrying on the straight line. So we're continuing our guide essentially all the way across. So now this hair has travelled from here to here, so we've over directed that slightly. But when it's backwards, it's going to be the same. So that's all we mean. So basically, when we get to this side section, yeah, we're just continuing this line as far as we need to go. I'll show you again on this side. So we come here, we find the guide, we make that cut. And then we're taking the side section here. Again, no tension, we're just holding it gently in our fingers. You're not really supposed to cut past your second knuckle. On this haircut, it's not quite as important because the tension, you lose tension past your second knuckle because most people have a gap in their fingers. But on this haircut, we're not requiring too much tension, so it's not the end of the world. But I wouldn't recommend cutting past your second knuckle anyway, because once you get there, you're looking at cutting into this corner of your finger, and that can really hurt. So try not to cut past your second knuckle if you can help it. Okay, so that's the third section, and that's above the ears, and that's now how we're going to work for the rest of the haircut as we go up the head. If you need to check your lengths now, you can take it and you can pull it back. As long as the hair comes from the same spot on either side of the head parallel, it should be the same length. For example, you take it from here, same length. Here will be the same length because it's so close. And that's that really. So now we're going to work up through the head, and I'll speed the video up just so you can see it through to the end and you can get a hang of it. Okay, now one important part of this bit is that if the person has shorter hair at the front, for example, like graduation in the front, as we pull the hair down here, the front hair, it's not really happening here, but the front hair is going to start to slip away. So if we imagine we're cutting it over here, the front hair, starts to fall away. Now that's okay, we're only cutting what goes back. So if the front of the hair doesn't reach the back to where you're cutting, that's fine, just let it go, it's not important. Say this is straight at the back, so we don't need to worry about that. That will happen, you'll find that will happen if the person has graduation in the front, because the hair won't be long enough to reach to the back. So yeah, you just let that go. Okay, so now we're done, and she has straight hair at the back. I'll give it a quick dry so you can see, but should have like a perfectly straight backwards. So I'll give it a blow dry and then we'll come back and show you. Okay, so it's all dried off, and what you should be left with is just a nice straight cut that's cut all your ends off and you've kept it straight. So that when the hair's all back, you've just got a straight line. And that's a one length cut really, which is the first sort of haircut you've ever learned. It's a lot of haircut that a lot of people have trouble with. But it's good for amateur haircuts, especially if you just want to cut off your ends and you don't really want to go and spend a load of money getting your ends cut off. That's how you do it. So yeah, if you want to see any other haircuts, just let me know. You can either chuck us a request in the comments, or you can go to my blog at lemonsodahair.com. There's an email address on there. Get in touch with me, ask me questions. Happy to answer any questions about hair. I'm also on Twitter at lemonsodahair. But yeah, anything else you want to know, especially if you want to know about more difficult haircuts, request. I'm happy to try and simplify down haircuts and try and teach people how to cut sort of different haircuts at home. I like to try and blur that line between sort of amateur kind of YouTube hairdressing and legitimate professional hairdressing. So I'll always try and teach you anything you want really. So yeah, any requests, any comments, anything you want to know, if you have any difficulty and you've got any questions, just ask in the comments below, or say email or Twitter. And yeah, thanks for watching, and subscribe for more hairdressing stuff. Cheers.